I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I was with my wife, Lisa, for about 10 years. We'd been through a lot: marriage, a kid, a house we worked so hard to buy. I always thought we were stable, even happy, or at least I did. She was the kind of woman who could charm her way out of anything, always had a quick comeback, and never missed a chance to remind me she was the boss in the house. But lately there been little signs that didn't sit right. She started working longer hours at her job. At first, I thought it was just her ambition. She'd come home late more often, started dressing differently, more revealing, more confident, and she'd brush off my questions with a sly little smile. She'd say things like, "Relax, Mike, I'm just doing what I need to do to get ahead," or, "You're just jealous because I'm finally feeling good about myself." It felt like she was constantly chasing some kind of new confidence, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. There were little things, too. Her phone became more secretive. She'd hide it when I came near, or suddenly she'd be busy at work when I called her during her supposed lunch break. I caught her deleting texts once, a quick swipe on her screen, and she looked guilty as hell. I asked her what was going on, and she gave me that dismissive attitude like I was overreacting. "It's nothing, Mike, just work stuff. You're reading into things." But I knew better. I just didn't have proof yet. One night, I decided to install a security camera in the house, just so I could finally catch her in the act if she was hiding something. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I needed to see what she was doing when she thought I wasn't looking. I set it up in the living room and bedroom, mostly because those were the places I suspected she'd be sneaking around. The first few days, I didn't notice much. She'd leave early in the mornings, come back late, and act like everything was normal. But then I started reviewing the footage. What I saw made my stomach drop. I watched her leave the house one afternoon, her phone in hand, dressed in a tight blouse and tight jeans. Then 3 hours later she returned. But it wasn't just her. It was her and someone else. The footage showed her walking into the house with a man I'd never seen before, a real estate agent we'd been dealing with for our house hunt. Their interactions were quick, but I could see the way they looked at each other, like they knew something was going on that I wasn't supposed to see. It took a while for it to sink in. I kept replaying the footage, trying to convince myself I was mistaken. But the way she looked at him, those little touches, the way she leaned into him, the way she smirked, and the way he looked at her like she was the most desirable thing in the world, it all pointed to one thing: she was cheating. There was no way around it. And the worst part, I knew this wasn't just some fling. It was serious enough for her to hide it from me, enough for her to meet him in secret, probably for sex. When I confronted her that night, I was furious. I told her I knew everything. Her face twisted into a bitchy mask almost instantly. She threw a fit, yelling at me, calling me paranoid, accusing me of spying on her, saying I was crazy for even thinking she'd cheat. "You're just insecure, Mike. You're overreacting because you're a pathetic loser," she snapped. She yelled that she was entitled to her own life, that she deserved fun, sex, excitement, everything I'd apparently been denying her. I could see the anger in her eyes, but it was also a kind of desperation, like she knew she'd been caught and she didn't care. My mind was swirling. I felt a mix of shock, anger, and heartbreak all at once. How could she betray me like this? After everything we'd been through, after all the years I'd put into this marriage, I never saw it coming. I kept asking myself if it was my fault, if I'd missed the signs, if I'd failed somehow. But deep down, I knew it wasn't about me. It was about her needing something she wasn't getting from me, and instead of talking to me, she'd turned to someone else. That realization hit me hard. I stood there watching her scream at me, accusing me of wrecking her life. And I felt an overwhelming sense of betrayal. This wasn't just about the sex or the affair. It was about respect, trust, and the hollow feeling of being completely duped. I wanted to break down, but I held it together because I knew I couldn't let her see me weak. I had to figure out what to do next, but honestly, right then I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. After that confrontation, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. I kept replaying the footage in my head, trying to understand how she could do this to me after all these years. Lisa was always the type to act like she was too good for everyone else, too busy with her career, too busy with her little games. I felt like an idiot for not seeing it sooner, for missing all the signs, for believing her when she said she loved me. Now I was left with this gnawing emptiness, like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. I started obsessively reviewing more footage, trying to catch her in something else. Her phone was always nearby now, and I'd catch her sneaking texts, deleting messages just like before. The more I looked, the clearer it became she'd been cheating for months, maybe even longer. There were too many little clues: late nights, secretive phone calls, her flirtatious attitude whenever she was around him. The thing that really broke me was the way she laughed at his jokes, touched his arm, acted like she was the only woman who mattered to him. I didn't want to confront her again, at least not yet. I needed a plan. I felt so betrayed and angry I could barely breathe. But I knew I had to be smart about this. I decided to keep monitoring her, to gather more evidence before I did anything drastic. I also started making calls to some friends, asking about divorce lawyers and how to handle betrayal like this. I was determined to get out of this a winner, but I was also crushed inside. Every time I saw her slip her phone into her purse or hide her smile when she thought I wasn't looking, it cut me deeper. One night, I decided to follow her. She told me she was going out with her friend, that real estate agent Mark. That's when I followed her from a distance, parked my car a couple of blocks away, and watched as she drove to some fancy hotel downtown. She went inside with him, and I sat there, fists clenched, feeling the boiling rage build up inside me. I wasn't just mad, I was furious. How dared she lie, cheat, and pretend everything was fine? I had given her everything, my time, my love, my trust, and she threw it all away for a quick fling. The next day, I knew I had to confront her again, but this time with more evidence and a plan. I couldn't just accuse her without proof, not if I wanted to make her own lies backfire. I decided to confront her directly. I waited until she was getting ready for her meeting, and I cornered her in the bedroom. I kept my voice steady but cold. "Lisa, I saw the footage. I saw you and Mark going into that hotel. Don't lie to me anymore. I know everything." Her eyes narrowed, and she rolled her eyes with that bitchy smirk. "Oh, Mike, you're ridiculous. You've been spying on me. That's pathetic. You're just jealous because I'm finally having some fun, something you never gave me." She tried to act like it was just a fling, like she was justified, but I saw the flicker of guilt in her eyes, the way her voice cracked just a little. That's when I snapped. I told her I wasn't going to be played anymore, that her lies didn't work on me. I warned her I'd leave her if she kept this up, that she was a cheating, manipulative bitch who destroyed everything we built. The reaction was classic. She shouted, called me crazy, told me I was losing my mind. "You're so insecure, Mike. You think I want some guy's cock, please. You're just hurt because I don't want you anymore." Her words stung worse than anything else. I could see her trying to gaslight me, trying to turn the tables like I was the one at fault. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I was done with her lies, done with her manipulations. I told her she needed to pack her things, that I wanted nothing to do with her anymore if she kept cheating. That night I stayed awake, thinking about everything she'd said and done. The pain was sharp, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized I'd been a fool for so long, ignoring all the signs, giving her the benefit of the doubt. Now I knew her real nature: selfish, dishonest, and completely unfaithful. I had to decide if I was going to fight for this marriage or cut my losses. I knew I couldn't stay with someone who so easily threw away trust and respect. In the following days, I started packing up some of my things. I'd made the decision. I was leaving her. I couldn't be with someone who treated me like an afterthought, who lied to my face and used me for her own amusement. I honestly didn't know what hurt worse: a shattered heart, or realizing the person you loved was a stranger all along. But I felt a strange, cold relief starting to settle in. I was finally taking control of my life, even if it meant facing a lot of pain. I knew I'd never forget what she did, but I also knew I had to move on, to rebuild myself from this mess she left behind. The day I told her I was leaving was one of the hardest in my life. She was still trying her usual tricks, acting all innocent and hurt, but I saw through that mask. I'd already decided I wasn't going to be manipulated anymore. I told her I knew everything: the affair, the sneaking around, the hotel nights. Her face twisted into something ugly, like she was angry I'd caught her, but also like she didn't care. She snapped back with those bitchy, dismissive comments, saying I was overreacting, that I was just insecure and jealous. She threw in the classic, "You're crazy, Mike," as if that would somehow make her actions okay. I was furious, but I kept my cool. I told her I wanted her out that very day. I couldn't stand to be in the same space with her anymore, knowing she'd betrayed me so completely. She started crying then, fake tears welling up, trying to guilt-trip me into changing my mind. But I wasn't having it. I told her she could take her things and leave, that I wanted nothing from her anymore but her absence. Her screaming and yelling only confirmed she was the selfish, manipulative bitch I'd already figured her out to be. As the days went on, I began packing my own stuff, slowly and carefully. I wanted to disappear quietly, but I also knew I had to have everything documented, proof of her lies, her infidelity. I took screenshots of her messages, saved the footage from the cameras, and kept a journal of everything that happened. I was building my case, not just emotionally but practically, just in case she tried to turn this around on me. I didn't trust her anymore, and I was determined to be prepared for whatever she threw at me next. Meanwhile, she was still trying to keep up her act. She'd send me fake apologies, pretending she didn't mean for it to happen, that she was confused. She'd say she loved me, that she was sorry for hurting me, but her eyes told a different story. I saw her sneaking around, texting Mark behind my back, clearly trying to keep the affair going even now. It made me angry but also proud that I'd caught her red-handed. She was the one who'd been reckless, not me. One evening, I decided to confront her one last time before she left. I found her sitting in the living room, pretending to look sad. I looked her right in the eyes and told her I knew she'd been with Mark for a while. Her lips pressed into a thin line and she tried to deny it, but I wasn't fooled. The evidence was too clear. I told her she was a selfish, lying bitch who didn't deserve my trust or respect anymore. I warned her that if she kept messing around or trying to manipulate me, I'd expose her to everyone, her friends, her family, her reputation. She scoffed and rolled her eyes, acting like she was the victim. That's when my anger boiled over. I told her I never wanted to see her again, that I'd be filing for divorce and that I was done playing her game. I reached for my phone and started dialing the lawyer's number, knowing this was the end of our chapter. Her screams and accusations didn't faze me. I'd made up my mind. As she packed her bags, she kept trying to spin everything, calling me insecure, jealous, obsessive, anything to shift the blame. But I was past caring. I just wanted her gone. Watching her walk out the door, I felt a strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. I was losing my wife, yes, but I was also freeing myself from a toxic relationship. I kept telling myself I deserved more. I deserved honesty, loyalty, and someone who wouldn't cheat behind my back for months. That night I sat alone in the house, finally feeling like I could breathe again. It was quiet, almost eerily so, and I let the silence settle over me. All the anger, pain, and betrayal boiled down to one thing: I'd been played. But now I was finally taking control. I knew I'd survive this, even if it hurt like hell. I wondered how long it would take to get over her, to heal, to trust again. But for now, I just wanted to get through the night and start rebuilding my life, one step at a time. After Lisa left that day, I thought I'd feel some kind of relief, but honestly, it was mostly just numbness. The house felt so empty without her, and for the first few days I kept waiting for her to come back, to call and tell me it was all a mistake. But she never did. Instead, I was left with the aftermath, her lies, the betrayal, all those nights she spent with Mark. I couldn't believe I'd let her get away with this for so long, that I'd trusted her even when I had this sinking suspicion in my gut. I threw myself into planning my next move. I called a lawyer immediately, had to start the divorce process. It was a surreal experience, knowing I was about to officially end a decade-long marriage because of her reckless cheating. I also reached out to a few friends just to talk, to get some perspective. Most of them were sympathetic, but some told me I should fight for her, try to save it. I didn't want that. I knew I couldn't trust her anymore, not after everything I'd seen on that camera footage. In the meantime, I had to deal with the emotional fallout. I'd go from furious to devastated in seconds. Some nights, I'd lie awake, replaying everything: Her lies, her sneers, that look in her eyes when she thought I wasn't watching. It was like a punch to the gut every time I remembered how easily she'd lied to my face, how she'd manipulated me for her own pleasure. I felt so naive, so stupid for not seeing it sooner, but I also knew I couldn't dwell on that. I had to move forward even if it was just step by step. One thing I kept doing was reviewing all the footage I had, every sneaky text, every time she slipped her phone out of sight. It was almost like a ritual now, a way to remind myself I wasn't crazy. She really had been cheating on me, and I had the proof to back it up. I even started to feel a strange sense of clarity. This was her choice, her betrayal, and I was finally taking it seriously. I had been a good husband, I thought, but she didn't see me that way. Maybe she never did. As the days went on, I found myself going to the house more often, clearing out her stuff, trying to make sense of everything. I couldn't even look at her side of the bedroom without feeling sick. I kept asking myself how she could be so callous, so indifferent to the damage she caused. She had no remorse, no apology, just that bitchy smirk whenever I confronted her. It made my stomach turn. I wondered how deep her lies went, how many more secrets she was hiding. One night I was sitting on the couch, tired and emotionally drained, when I got a text from her. It was a long, rambling message, full of lies and sorry, but I needed this kind of bullshit. She said she was sorry for hurting me, but then tried to make it sound like I was the one at fault. She even claimed she hadn't really done anything wrong, that Mark was just a friend and I was overreacting. That was the moment I knew she wasn't going to change. She was still trying to manipulate me, still acting like she was the victim. That's when I decided I had to cut all ties. I blocked her number, her social media, everything. I realized I couldn't keep giving her the power to manipulate me anymore. I had to focus on myself, on healing. I started going to therapy, even talked to a counselor about how betrayed I felt. It was embarrassing at first, admitting I was hurt, but it helped. I needed to understand that her actions didn't define me, that I was still a good man despite her betrayal. As I moved through those first few weeks after she left, I started feeling more like myself. The anger gradually turned into a quiet determination. I wasn't going to let her ruin me. I also realized I had to be honest with myself. If I ever wanted to trust again, I'd have to start with trusting my instincts. No more ignoring little red flags, no more pretending everything was fine when it was. The pain was real, but I knew I'd get through it. I had to. I owed it to myself to rebuild and find happiness again, even if it felt impossibly distant right now. Months went by, and I'll admit, it wasn't easy. There were days I'd wake up with a knot in my stomach, wondering what I could have done differently, or if I still had feelings for her deep down. But every time I thought about her sneaking around, lying to my face, that rage would bubble back up. I started focusing on myself, going to the gym, working overtime, rediscovering old hobbies I'd pushed aside during our marriage. I didn't want to be that broken guy who got played, so I forced myself to keep moving forward, no matter how much it hurt. One thing that surprised me was how many people reached out, mostly to tell me I did the right thing, that her betrayal was unforgivable. A few friends even told me I should post the story online, to warn others about red flags and how manipulation can sneak into even the best relationships. I wasn't sure about sharing everything at first, but I realized my story might help someone else avoid the same heartbreak. That's why I'm here now, just to get this out and maybe help someone else see the signs earlier. I all started dating again, though slowly. I wasn't looking for anything serious right away. I just wanted to reconnect with people, feel human again. But I couldn't help but compare every woman I met to Lisa, questioning their sincerity, wondering if they'd cheat on me too. It's a shitty way to go about it, but that's what betrayal does to you. Still, I knew I had to let go of her completely or I'd never move on. I'd spent so long blaming myself, thinking maybe I was the problem, but deep down, I knew she was the one who screwed up, not me. The process of healing was messy. Some days I'd feel hopeful, like I was finally getting my life back. Other days I'd be back at square one, wallowing in anger and sadness. I'd get flashes of her sneering at me, her lies spilling out, or that fake tear-streaked face she put on to guilt me. But I kept telling myself I was better off without her. I was finally starting to see my worth again. I also started seeing a therapist regularly, which helped me unpack years of resentment and betrayal. It wasn't just about her cheating, it was about rebuilding trust in myself and humanity. One thing I've learned from all this is that you can't change other people. You can only control how you respond. Lisa chose her path and I chose mine, away from her. I realized I'd been giving her too much power, pretending I was okay with her lying to my face. That was a mistake. Now I know I need to listen to my gut. If something feels wrong, I need to confront it early, not let it fester until it destroys everything. I've also learned that forgiveness isn't about forgetting or excusing what she did. It's about accepting what happened. Forgiving myself for trusting her so blindly and moving on. I don't think I'll ever forget the pain, but I can learn from it. I can become stronger, more aware, and more cautious. The trust I once had in her is gone, but I'm rebuilding my trust in myself. Now, I still get occasional flashes of anger or sadness when I think about her, but they're fewer and farther between. I see my future a little clearer now, quiet, solitary at first, but with the hope of eventually finding someone who truly values me. I don't regret the painful lessons because they made me realize what I deserve, something real, honest, and respectful. That's what I want now, and I won't settle for less. Living through this nightmare has taught me that I'm stronger than I thought, and I'll never let someone betray me like that again. Looking back now, I can honestly say that losing Lisa was one of the hardest things I've ever gone through. But it also forced me to confront a lot about myself, my boundaries, my worth, and what I truly want out of life. I used to believe that love and loyalty were the foundation of any relationship, but after everything, I see how fragile that trust can be if it's broken even once. Still, I also see how resilient I've become. The betrayal crushed me at first, and I won't lie. There were nights I wondered if I'd ever get past it. But slowly, piece by piece, I've started piecing myself back together. I've learned to listen to my instincts more carefully, to spot the red flags early, and most importantly, to value myself enough to walk away when someone shows they don't deserve my trust. The pain will always be a part of me, but it no longer defines me. What I want anyone reading this to understand is this. If you're in a similar situation, you're not alone. It hurts, God, it hurts so much. But that pain can be a catalyst for growth. It'll teach you your limits, show you what you're capable of, and push you to become stronger. You don't have to stay in a toxic, unfaithful relationship just because it's familiar. There's life after betrayal, and it's worth fighting for yourself. I've realized that sometimes, the best thing you can do for your future happiness is to walk away from what's hurting you, even if it feels impossible at first. Forgiveness isn't about excusing what happened. It's about releasing the hold it has on you so you can move forward. And trust me, you will move forward. It might be slow, it might be messy, but eventually you'll find peace. Maybe not immediately, and maybe not with the person you hope to spend your life with, but peace nonetheless. As I sit here today, I feel a strange sense of closure. I know I'll never forget what Lisa did, but I also know that I am no longer her victim. I am the one in charge now. I am rebuilding my life one day at a time. I'm learning to trust again, just not blindly, and to value the relationships that are honest and genuine. I want to believe in love again someday, but for now I'm taking care of myself. That's the real victory. So to anyone out there going through something similar, keep going. The pain is real, but so is your strength. Heal at your own pace. And remember, betrayal doesn't define your worth. You do.